as photonic lights, light codes, blue light plasma, this wave, tsunami wave of light is washing over the earth. We are being intuitively activated to help provide us with the gifts of enhanced intuition so that we can more easily navigate this great time of awakening change that we're in. And I'm super excited to talk to you about this particular intuitive sense that I call temperature intuition, where you can sense subtle thermal shifts around you that tell you something, that gives you a sense about what might be happening in that room. So, have you ever felt an unexpected chill or a sudden wave of warmth, as if your body is tuned in and tapped into energies that go beyond your physical environment? So today we're going to be doing a deep dive into this fascinating and, again, often overlooked intuitive ability. Temperature intuition is the ability to sense subtle shifts in thermal energies and interpret them as intuitive messages. So, unlike the traditional intuition that we know of feeling, hearing, seeing, and knowing, a temperature intuition can, sorry, temperature intuition speaks through physical sensations such as warmth, icy chill, even rolling waves of heat that seem to have no direct connection to the environment. And I often will hear this from my students. They're like, why am I getting hot? Why is it suddenly hot here? Oh my gosh, I'm icy cold. So, this is another intuitive ability. These experiences are more than just physical reactions to temperature. They can act as intuitive signals, providing valuable insight to people, places, and unseen energies. So, we're going to explore all the different ways that people experience temperature intuition and what these shifts just might mean and how they can develop this ability to deepen your awareness, both your internal world and the energies around you. So, what exactly is temperature intuition? I guess I could call it thermal, but I'm calling it temperature intuition. But maybe thermal intuition might be better. So, most people think of temperature changes as purely environmental, walking into an air conditioned room or stepping into the sun. Right? That's pretty traditional. But for those with temperature intuition, the body becomes an instrument that picks up on energetic changes and shifts in warmth and coolness. And not everybody can do this. So you can walk into a room and say, "Oh my gosh, it's so icy cold in here. I feel, like I'm frozen, like my body's aching." And somebody else will say, "Oh no, I feel fine." So not everybody has this ability, and so this is why it's worth mentioning. Um, all right, some people can feel the instant chill when standing near someone who's afraid or carrying deep emotional pain. Others experience a wave of heat when encountering strong emotions such as anger or passion. Then there's those moments when the temperature shift is so intense that it feels like the very energy in the space is revealing its history of violence, of sorrow, of love, or of healing. These temperature fluctuations often have no logical explanation. They appear in response to the unseen world. So, whether it's emotional energy, spiritual presence, past events, or even energetic imprints left behind in a particular place. So, how do you recognize different types of thermal shifts? Well, let's explore some of the different ways that other people have described their experiences. And I've got a few of my own stories to share and what these shifts might mean. So, Let's say you suddenly feel a very cold presence. Many people associate this with an unexplained cold sensation with spiritual presence, but it can also indicate emotional or energetic shifts in the environment. The cold shoulder effect. Have you ever stood next to someone and felt an unexpected chill? Have you ever heard the word, I got a chilly response from them? This can indicate that the person is emotionally shut down. And when they're emotionally shut down, they're really hiding their emotions, or their auric field can literally be inside their body. They're trying to make themselves invisible and small, or they might try to repress fear, or they might be carrying some deep grief and they're wanting to hide that. They are withdrawn, and your intuitive body picks up on the temperature changes as a coldness. So often my students will say, why am I feeling cold? Well, it can be all of those reasons. You can also have a cold room and there's no explanation for it. So you can step into a space and you can feel an unnatural coldness, even though the temperature hasn't changed. This could indicate residual energy from past traumas or an overwhelming presence of sadness. And some people report cold spots in rooms where arguments, violence, and sorrow has occurred. When my house is 130 years old, and my house was owned by the same person for like 80 years, right? And they were a hoarder, so there was floor to ceiling stuff. And it had been a boarding house during World War I, I think, and World War II. And so it just had a lot of history in it. Let's just put it that way. But I remember uh, it hadn't been touched in, gosh, we'll say 50 years. And, but it was an ice cold presence when I came into this house. It was just ice cold. And I could sense that there were a lot of spirits in the house. I was later able to find a journal that the woman had kept, and the spirit world was more of her friends than she was very isolated and very shut in. She did not socialize with anyone, never had kids, never married. And so I realized, oh, she talked, the spirit world was her family, was her friends. So it was very, very cold, and it took a couple of years to clear all the spirits out. The chill of fear or dishonesty. Like you might be able to tell when someone's not being honest or they're outright lying. I wish I had that skill and ability to notice that. But cold energy can be a signal of deception. You suddenly feel a wave of coldness while speaking to someone. Pay attention to this signal, because it might be your intuition that's signaling that they are hiding something and they're not being truly truthful with you. But remember, it can also be that fear or suppressed grief and things like that. So, how about if you suddenly experience heat, a wave of heat? While cold often signals withdrawal and unresolved energies, heat can be a sign of intensity, a kind of intensity that depends on the situation that you are in. So, anger, aggression, conflict. Have you ever entered a room that felt thick and it had a rolling heat to it? And even though the temperature was normal, it's registering normal. Some people describe it as a pressure or a burning sensation. This can indicate anger, conflict, even past violence has left an energetic imprint in that space. um, I was watching this particular documentary, and this particular man was he was a journalist, and he would go undercover, like into drug houses or like into cartel groups or mobs. He would go undercover to write stories. And he said every time he had this particular heat, he would feel this heat in a particular way. He knew that violence had happened in that room, had just happened in that room, or was about ready to happen in that room. And he said he was accurate every single time. And so he has that temperature intuition. Let's see. And he could immediately feel the waves of this aggressive heat moving over him, like and being enveloped in this violence. And it was a huge warning signal. He would get those warning bells going off, all the time, like get out of this space. But healing, this heat can also be healing, and it can be passionate energy. So, not all heat is negative. Many energy healers will describe a sensation of radiant warmth where they're channeling healing energy for someone else. You can also be near someone and there's all this warmth. It's very loving, passionate. It exudes strong, positive energy. You may feel comfort when you are around this person or in like sacred sites. Um, that wave of warmth goes through your body where you have a positive thermal intuitive sense about you. So I haunted in energetically heavy places. So I wanted to mention this. So my daughter worked at a particular restaurant and she was a bartender, and they had all these specialized drinks. It was a sweet little small restaurant. And one day my daughter was approached that she would be losing her job, and her question was, oh, well, we're going to close down the place. Oh, what's happening? And she was told that the place was haunted, and the owner was very concerned for the employees because these bottles of whiskey could fly across the room and smash the wall. Tables and chairs would be thrown around the room. They'd come back that next morning and everything would be kind of destroyed. There were lots of indicators that there was some type of negative spirit there. And so my daughter said, well, and so my daughter said, well, have you called like a healer or a psychic? And they said, yeah, we've had a couple come in here and it hasn't helped. And so she goes, well, you haven't called my mom. And so next thing you know, the owner's calling me. And so Yvonne and I go down there. And the bottom line was, we had discovered, we felt like it was under the building. And the owner said that, I'm trying to remember. It's it's a really long, good story, and I'm trying to summarize it really quickly. And the owner said, "No, there's nothing. We don't have a basement. There's nothing under the building, and so it can't be coming from there." Well, eventually, Yvonne went in the back alley. Sure enough, found a door, went in, and underneath there was an old jail, like from the 1920s, where they would let people who drank a lot kind of sleep it off. I didn't eventually found someone who knew what that area was. But down there it was very dark, it was very cold. I would not go down there. I could feel the coldness radiating up the stairs from underneath. So the bottom line was we were able to get to that space that was underneath the restaurant. We were able to clear out that it was a very aggressive spirit. Let's just put it that way. And the restaurant has remained open to this day, but it was icy, icy cold. Like you could just feel this ice cold move through the building. There was another sense experience I had actually with a client, and I won't go into the whole thing with the client, but what I will say is I was sitting there and I was getting tuned in, the client sitting across from me, I'm getting tuned in, and suddenly, uh, I would say within less than a minute, the temperature in the room was 70 degrees, dropped down to 40 degrees within 2 minutes. And it felt icy cold. And when I opened my eyes, it's like you could see my breath. Like when you're standing out in cold, cold, like it was that cold. You could see my breath when I was talking. And I thought, what is happening here? So I won't go into the whole story, but what I will tell you was that I could sense evil around, and that room stayed really, really cold. After I did healing and after we did the session, and it was almost like the lights came back on, and it was like the temperature just took a couple minutes to come right back to normal again. So that's called being sensitive to thermal or temperature intuition. So, haunted, energetically heavy places can report feeling unexplained chills that have a history of trauma, illness, or death. And this isn't just about ghosts, it's about energetic imprints, which could be hospitals, old prisons, battlefields that can hold that lingering energy of cold. Warm, safe, sacred places, just as cold can indicate sorrow, warmth in a space can also signal safety, healing, and positive energy. Have you ever walked into a room that felt really good? You're like, whoa, it feels good in here. Like I think about a crystal shop, when you walk in a crystal shop and it's like, whoa, it feels so great. Temples, meditation rooms, homes where people have lived with an open heart, you can feel that really peaceful frequency. So, if you've ever felt an unexplained temperature shift, but you didn't know what it meant, you can strengthen your ability by just interpreting it. Let yourself sit with it. So, practical awareness in different environments. The next time you enter a space, see if you even notice. It's like, oh, is it warm or is it cold in here? Let yourself walk room to room, if you are in a place to do that, and see if you can notice different shifts in temperature. And I do know that probably many of you do it, because it's like you're sitting there and all of a sudden it's like, I need my coat. If you feel a chill, ask yourself, does this space carry any sadness? Is there unresolved memories here? If you feel warmth, does this place feel loving? When you're standing next to someone, can you notice a warmth or a coolness? Or you notice emotional detachment, fear, or dishonesty? You can use meditation and breath work to be able to enhance your sensitive abilities, sitting silent and noticing micro shifts. It can be very subtle until you can train your sensitivities enough to notice the subtle shifts in temperature. And then write down your what you noticed. And what I noticed about noticing temperature shifts is that if it was a particular um, temperature that I noticed in different places at different times, but I'm like, I remember this kind of chill that I had before, and it meant this. Like, you can start building like a little dictionary of temperature changes that will tell you what it means. And so, keeping that journal over time, you'll recognize patterns and you can strengthen your trust in those abilities. So, your body as an intuitive thermometer, remember, temperature intuition is incredibly powerful and often overlooked as an intuitive sense. And what I found interesting with this particular man that was a undercover journalist was he didn't notice other things, like feeling and seeing and hearing and knowing. And I'm sure he did, but he read it as temperature. Everything was temperature. So, again, just listen to what your body is telling you. So, I would love to hear from you, those of you who maybe never thought about temperature changes as an intuitive ability before. Maybe, yeah, you just didn't think you were intuitive, but it's like, oh, heck yeah, I can feel the differences in temperatures. And so that just may be the way that you move through your environment. And in temperature changes, when you get those subtle messages, you can get a lot of multidimensional information. So, share your experiences in your comments below. If you'd like to hear more about all the different intuitive sensations that are being unlocked during this great time of change, just make sure you hit the subscribe button. And when you hit the bell, go to the one that says all, because then you'll be notified every time. And remember, your body is always receiving and interpreting and sending out intuitive messages. So trust what you feel and let your inner thermometer guide you. All right, everyone, take care. I really look forward to hearing from those who have this ability and from those of you who look forward to working on this ability. All right, take care, everyone. Bye bye.